friends, welcome to a very exciting YouTube tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable little cake boxes, and using any type of colors you like, any style, any decoration, you can add it to yourself. It's not one specific pattern, but I'll help you find inspiration hopefully, and then you can make your own little cake boxes. So the first thing we're going to look at is finding a box to cover with this little cake cover basically. Now you can use any type of box that you would like. These circular ones I found at Michael's, and what I really liked about them is that they can open up. And then I found this tissue box holder also at Michael's, which I made a Thanksgiving turkey tissue box holder for a brand collab. Unfortunately they didn't post it, so but I still like to keep it around because it turned out really cute. And then you can also use foam. This I also found at Michael's, but you can make a cake out of it if you just plan on having your cake as a decoration, which is what I did. But for this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make rounded cakes. So before we get into the materials you need, let's talk about finding inspiration. So I have a folder on Instagram where I save a lot of these beautiful vintage cake designs from these accounts, and I'm obsessed with them. They're all over my explore page, and I just take these images as inspiration for what colors I kind of want to pair with, and then I go to my yarn stash and pick out my colors. But yes, I find most of my inspiration on Instagram and Pinterest from real cake designers. Now there are other crocheters that have their own patterns for cake boxes, and I'll tag them here, so shout out to them because they make the most gorgeous and adorable crochet cakes. So hopefully those give you some kind of starting point, some sort of idea of what you want your cake boxes to look like. So now that you have your inspo pick, I'm gonna use this one, and I'm just basing my colors off it very loosely. These are the yarn colors that I chose. So the yarn I'm gonna use is a 4-weight acrylic yarn from Michael's, and this is the yarn I normally use for all of my projects. It's soft, which is very important for me, and it comes in a variety of colors, so I can always find the colors that closely match the reference pick or my inspo. So I'm really happy about that. So 4-weight yarn with a 5mm hook, and you'll also need a hot glue gun and a needle and threader. Now be careful with the hot glue gun. You can also use fabric glue, but I feel like hot glue gun tends to stick better to the wood or the box that you're using. So definitely keep that in mind, but also be very careful because it can hurt, and I've gotten burned a couple of times. Also need scissors. So now we're gonna get started on the cake base. You're gonna choose the color that you want for the base. We're gonna start with a magic ring. Now if you don't know how to do a magic ring, it's super easy. I use this technique all the time. This is what you're gonna do. So you're gonna take your first 2 fingers in your working hand, wrap your yarn around them, and then back around and make an X on the side. And then you're gonna go under your first strand with your hook. Make sure you're holding it really tight. Grab the second strand, and you're gonna pull under the first strand of yarn. Now you're gonna twist your hook to make a loop. And then you're gonna grab the yarn again under the hook, over, and then you're gonna pull that through the loop. that's how you do a magic ring. So you're gonna have a little tail that closes your magic ring. And from there you can start your stitches inside the magic ring. So I started with a chain 2 because I'm gonna be doing double crochets into this magic ring. So I'm doing double crochet because I feel like it covers most of my cake box. Feel free to use single crochets or half double crochets, whatever you feel comfortable with. Let's work 10 double crochets into this magic ring. And then once you're done those, we're gonna pull that little tail to tighten it and slip stitch into the first stitch that you made. So that closes up the circle that you want. And from there you can see we're building up this little circle to be flat for the top of your cake box. And you're gonna repeat this for the bottom of your cake box too, if your box opens and closes like these ones. So for your next round, you're gonna start with a chain 2, and then in this row, you're gonna do an increase in every stitch. So an increase is basically 2 of the stitch that you're working on, 2 of those in one of the stitches from the previous row. So since I'm doing double crochet, I'm gonna be putting 2 double crochets in each stitch from the previous row. So you're doubling the amount of stitches overall. So since I started with 10, this row you're gonna have 20. So be sure to count them in the end, just in case you may have added an extra stitch or you may have less stitches. And then once again, you slip stitch into the beginning to close off that round. For the third round, chain 2, and we're gonna do 1 double crochet followed by an increase in the second stitch. And you're gonna keep working that around all the way to the end. So 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 double crochet and then 2 in the next stitch. In total, this round you're gonna have 30. So it always multiplies by the amount of stitches that you started in the beginning. So this one would be 10. So I did 4 rounds, and this was the perfect size for the width of the top of my box. So now that that's done, we're going to be working on the sides. So to continue down the sides of the box, we'll be working in the next round on the back loops only. So that's the loops, if you look at the side of your project, the furthest loop away from you. And for a snug fit, this round will be decreasing by 4 stitches spaced out evenly. And I find this worked best because if you just put a double crochet in each stitch, it'll be a little wide for your box. So I spaced out 4 decreases along the entire circle. So if your box is bigger and you're trying to figure out how do I space 4 decreases around evenly, I took the total number of stitches in that round, so I had 40. I divided that by 4, which gave me 10. And since a decrease, you're taking 2 stitches and you're merging it into 1 stitch, I subtracted 2 from 10, which is 8. So when I'm working that round, I'll be doing 8 double crochets followed by a decrease, which is taking 2 stitches and turning them into 1, and it'll be evenly spaced around my entire box. I hope that makes sense, but that's how I figured it out. Once you figured out how to add your decreases, this is where the easy part comes in. You're going to be working the same amount of stitches into each stitch until you reach the height of your box. So since my box has a lid, I did a height of 2 rows for the top and 5 rows for the base. And once you finish your base of your cake, now we can move on to adding the decorations. For the icing and decor, honestly, this is my favorite part. I'm going to be going over a different couple of stitches that you can use to decorate your cake. From there, you can mix and match all these decorations and decorate your cake. So my favorite icing to start with is the ruffles at the bottom, just because I feel like it provides a nice base for my cakes, and I usually like to work them right onto the box. So for the ruffles, you're gonna work at the bottom of your cake box and insert your hook into any stitch. And with ruffles, you're basically gonna be adding a cluster of stitches into each stitch. So it's gonna give it that wavy effect. So I inserted my yarn into the base of my cake box. I'm gonna chain 2 because we're working with double crochets. And into the same stitch, I'm gonna do an increase or a cluster of 3 to 4 double crochets in that same stitch. So while you're going around and going on to the next stitch, you're going to be doing the same thing. So that's what one cluster will look like. See how it's all in one stitch? And then you're going to continue that to the stitch beside it. So make sure you don't skip any stitches when you're working in these clusters, because if they're nice and tight beside each other, they'll look more wavy. So after you're done with your ruffles, next we're gonna move on to another type of icing that you'll have to sew onto the cake box. So there's a little bit of sewing involved, but that's okay because it'll look cute. So with the bobble stitch, since we're not doing it directly on the box, it's gonna be like a foundation bobble stitch. You're gonna start with a slip knot, which is a few less steps than a magic ring. So wrap around the yarn around your 2 fingers again, make an X on the side, use your hook to go under the first strand, grab the second one, and you're just gonna pull through, let go of your fingers from the loop and pull it tight. So you've just created a slip knot. And this is where you'll start your chains. So for the bobble stitch, we're gonna chain 4. Wrap your yarn around your hook again, and we're gonna go back into the first chain that you made. So now there's 3 loops on your hook. You're gonna grab the yarn, pull through those 2 first loops. And make sure you're holding your yarn loosely so it's nice and high. And then back into that first chain again, pull up a loop, pull your yarn through the first 2 loops, and now you have 3 loops on your hook, and then back again into the first chain, pull up a loop, pull your yarn through the first 2 loops until you get a cluster of 4. So now you should have 5 loops on your hook. And you're gonna grab your yarn again with your hook and pull through all 5 loops. So you've just closed your first bobble stitch. Add a chain to secure it, and then chain 4 to start the next bobble stitch. 3, 4. And then back again, we're gonna make the second bobble stitch by going into the first chain that you made. So insert your hook on that little V right there at the bottom under the 2 loops, and then you're gonna pull up a loop from there. So you're just repeating the same steps from before, pulling it up high so that the height of your bobble stitch stays the same throughout, and you're gonna pull your yarn through the first 2 loops back into the first chain, pull up a loop, and then continue doing that until you have 5 loops on your hook. And that is your second bobble stitch. So you're gonna repeat these steps until you see that you can wrap your bobble stitches or your icing around wherever you want to place them on your cake box. So for my cake box, I did 14 bobble stitches long to wrap around the bottom part of my cake box. But if you're doing it on the top, it might be less. And once you're done, make sure to leave a long tail for sewing after. I'd say about maybe 10 inches long, just to be safe. And I'm going to show you how you're going to attach it to your cake box. So with your needle and threader, grab that little tail that you left behind for sewing. And you're going to just attach your icing to wherever part of your cake box that you want to attach it to. And with the needle, you're just going to insert it into the cake box. Make sure you grab the base of your cake. So the first part that we did. And what I usually do, I don't go too crazy with the sewing, just inserting my needle into the icing, grabbing the cake base, and then back out again. Just in and out, all along the side. Nothing too special. And there you go. For the next type of icing I'm going to show you is how to do the spiral chain, which looks really cute. Add more, I guess, width to the side of your cake. So for the spiral chain, we're going to do a long chain of roughly double the size of the circumference of your cake box. Now the reason for that is because when you're making the spiral, your chain will begin to shrink. So start making your chain after you did a slip knot. And you're going to keep checking that it fits around your cake box and that it's not too small. So just be sure to add a few more chains before you turn back around and start your spiral stitches. Now it's really simple to turn this chain into a spiral. You're going to go back down the second chain from the hook and you're going to do a increase in each stitch. So I added 2 single crochets in the last stitch, and then in the next one I added 2 single crochets, and in the next one. So you'll slowly start to see the chain taking shape. The spiral is going to start taking shape and your chain's going to start to curl. So do that all along the chain until you reach the bottom. For sewing, we're going to use the same technique we use for the bobble stitch icing. Just leave a long tail after you finish your spiral chain and then just attach it to your box with your needle. Now for the next type of piping decoration you can add to your cake, I like to do this one that kind of droops on the side of your cakes, and it adds a little more detail to the side of the cakes. So for this, you're going to need stitch markers. And stitch markers, you can literally use anything. You can use safety pins, you can use anything that you can attach to your yarn, just so you know the placement of where you want the icing to go. So for this icing technique, we're gonna just do a simple slip stitch throughout the inside of the cake box. Now you can remove the cover from your cake box so it's easier for you. And you're gonna insert your hook, grab your yarn into the side of your cake box and pull through any loop from the cake base. And you're going to want to angle your hook so that it's going to curve, basically. So you're going to try to do, as best as you can, a curve that reaches your other stitch marker. It's a little bit tricky, but you're going to continue this all around as best as you can. If you want to do the easy way and just do a long chain and then sew it onto your box after, you can do that too. But I feel like this saves me, I hope it saves me more time than sewing it directly onto the cake box. And that's how it looks on the side. It's really cute. Next, I'm going to show you how to do a simple little whipped cream topping. So for the whipped cream, we're going to start with a magic ring and make a circle of any size. So I'm going to do single crochets. I'm going to do about 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And then for the next round, I'm going to do an increase in each stitch. So in total, I'm going to have 12 stitches. And in the next round, so we're working in the back loops for right now, but then you're going to switch to the front loops after. So this is what I mean by that. The back loops are going to contain a ruffle of double crochets, and then the front loops are going to contain ruffles of half double crochets. We're going to do the back ruffles first. So chain 2, make a double crochet in that first stitch. Do a couple more double crochets so you start getting that ruffle effect. I'm going to do 3, and then in the next stitch you're going to continue and do 3 double crochets all the way around until you reach the end. And once you reach the end, you're going to go back to the front loops and start a half double crochet. Do 3 half double crochets in that front loop, and then the next one do 3 half double crochets all around until you reach the beginning again. So since you worked on both loops, your little whipped cream will have a wider base and a top as well. So they're both very wavy, and you can actually put strawberries or cherries on top. And if you want them to be any bigger or smaller, just adjust the size of your hook. I used a 4.5mm hook, but you can play around and make your whipped cream bigger by adding more stitches to the beginning. So instead of 6, you can do 8 or 10, and it'll make your whipped cream even bigger. So that's about all the basic decorating techniques that you can add to your cake. And if you want to add little fruits, those are really easy. I'm going to add the pattern, the written pattern right here. But you can also find other little videos on those too. They're super easy and super quick. And that's about it. Really hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope it covered the basics of how to make your own cake box. I really enjoyed making them out of yarn using basic stitches that I've learned online, on Pinterest, on doing my own experimenting and seeing what looks like cake icing. And it's just been a really fun experience. This is the one I made for my birthday, honestly. It's my magnum opus, like my masterpiece. I'm so proud of this one. I even added fake little paper flowers on it. Honestly, you can decorate your cakes however you want. I've seen people add beads to them, little jewelry, little anything. Honestly, you can add any little thing. Little ribbons on it. The little cake boxes have been a hit. I'm gonna put more in my shop because I've had a lot of fun making them. So if you're interested in buying one one, or even commissioning me to make you a custom one. I would love to do that. I'm making a whole bunch of them and I can't wait to start getting them out there. And if you make them for yourself or for your friends for their birthdays, let me know. Post your pictures. I would love to see them. And if you plan on selling them, just be sure to price your items fairly. Don't forget that crochet is a luxury and you deserve to be paid for your time and skill and the love that you put into your work, okay? That's all I ask, and this is a lot of hard work. So if someone wants to buy it, I feel like they should save up and pay for what your work is worth. Subscribe, comment if it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!